So, bottom half of the Premier League table, ladies. Nottingham Forest fan, West Ham fan, Spurs fan. Say it quietly. We're looking at this and we are probably as a trio as we sit here now are not particularly happy. However, Ellie, I'll start with you. Obviously, the last round of Premier League games, which seems like it was about 6 months ago with the international break and FA Cup, you obviously beat Spurs 3-0 at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. My first question is, does that keep Forest up?
I think so. I think that was the game to decide because I think West Ham are going to pull themselves out of it. Their form, okay, it's dropped a little bit, but it's better than Spurs, to say the least, as you can see there. But I think West Ham have the bottle. I think they've got the heart. I think they're kind of trending more, I wouldn't say upwards, but they're not spiralling in the same way Spurs are. The only thing I think Spurs may have potentially is a new manager bounce. They are relying on a new manager bounce.
Well, they've had that once already, and it didn't go very well, to be fair, with Igor Tudor. So you brought West Ham into the conversation there. Grace, that brings you into the conversation. You are below the line. So as we sit here now, Ellie and I are all right. There are 7 games of the season left. That's how it looks. I think my first question is, does the FA Cup defeat on Monday, has that caused West Ham a problem? Or actually, has it kind of rejuvenated you as a squad that you managed to get back from 2-0 down?
I think it would have caused us more of a problem had we just lost 2-0 because we wouldn't have shown the grit that we did in those final few minutes. That was really healthy. That was really quite encouraging as a West Ham fan to see us down and out and then all of a sudden we're back in it and rejuvenated. I think, I'm a psychology buff. Psychologically, that does a lot for us. And I think, you can say, having, losing it in the end would have been negative for our psychology. But to be fair, it's that extra fixture that do we necessarily need? Can we, we had that difficult situation on Sunday where you say, okay, do we bring players back potentially too early and go and win this game? Or do we give them the time to get ready for Friday, which is a massive game in the Premier League, and then we're more likely to win that game? You can't have your cake and eat it. You just can't. And with the squad we've got, we just, I think actually it might be a healthy thing.
You bring something else up there. You play Friday night, which obviously Spurs play on Sunday because it was chosen for TV. Forest play on Sunday because they're going to Porto on Thursday night. So, by default, it has to be Sunday. How much of an advantage is playing Friday night?
I think the best places to be is playing the first game or the last game because you know what's happened or you have no idea what's going to happen. And I think if you look at the table, if we get ourselves a result, that puts all the pressure on everybody above us because we then leapfrog Tottenham and that puts so much pressure. And it does put pressure on Forest, to be fair, as well, because then we're sat on 32 points. And I mean, we've got comfortable in the relegation zone, let's be honest. But that gap is very small now. And previously it's been much larger. I think if we get a result on Friday night, why not? Why can we not go and secure ourselves?
Yeah. And Ellie, you play Thursday and Sunday, and then you play Thursday and Sunday because of your Europa League involvement. Is that going to hinder Nottingham Forest when it comes to the relegation battle? Look, you could win the Europa League and be relegated. That's a possibility. You could get knocked out and be relegated. You could stay up. Everything's obviously in the mix. Do you think the Europa League, Grace mentioned there, the extra game could be a hindrance in the FA Cup. Do you think the Europa League is going to be a hindrance?
It shouldn't be. I think there's a lot of conversation about injuries and protecting players and resting certain players. And I think there's a way in which you can do the Europa League and do that right. And I think we haven't in the past. Now it comes down to, I want to see our best team for every Europa League game. I think I am in the minority for that, so I'm not going to speak for other Forest fans. But for me, probably not going to be in Europe again for a very long time, if we're honest. So I want to see us put out the best team. But what matters more to me, rather than resting players and potential injuries and worrying about things like that, is that mentality. And again, I think we both really like the psychological side of things. If you win a game in the Europa League, confidence is up. And if you look at Forest this season, we're not lacking talent, we're not lacking skill, we're not lacking ability. We're lacking the mentality. And in some cases, that's been confidence. In some cases, that might be potentially lack of heart or the fact that we're just getting a new manager every 2 seconds. That definitely can't help things. So I think if we go to Porto and we lose, I think confidence is down. And if we lose badly, or if it's a poor performance, but then equally if we lose and we fight well and we're 1-0 down and we can get in it, then again, I think it's more the mentality for us, because we have the skill and the talent, even in our squad. We should do, when you look at some of the names and the players and what they've shown historically. And a lot of the reason we are where we are is because players have not been performing how they should be. And when you watch them on the pitch, it could be because their heads are down or we look disjointed, and we can analyse that to death, but we all know why that is.
Yeah, and look,
it's your fault.
There's manager changes. There's lots of stuff that's happened. When we look at the fixtures, there is an argument to say you've got a block where you play Chelsea away, Newcastle at home, Man United away, which is obviously quite tough. You've got Arsenal to play, obviously at the London Stadium, so there's that. Spurs haven't really got anyone. I mean, Villa are playing for stuff, Chelsea are playing for stuff. Spurs, Chelsea's always tasty. Part of me, Grace, has always said all along, it will come down to your final game of the season, and that is at home to Leeds. Now, Leeds are obviously sat in 15th. You're sat in 18th at the moment. Can you see a scenario where there's this big Super Sunday where Leeds have to go to your ground and win? And obviously you've just played them in the FA Cup.
I can see it. I don't want to see it. I want to be secure by then. I mean, from the perspective of who's going to win the league, I'd quite like Arsenal to have the league wrapped up by the time they play us. And then, I mean, we've had conversations as fan bases going, oh, go on, give us the 3 points, send Spurs down. But I genuinely think fixtures are so hard to predict, because arguably going as a team like Forest and West Ham going to a team like Man United, you're not expected to get anything from it. So you're the underdog. And sometimes that's the better place to be. Whereas from a Tottenham perspective, you're potentially playing teams you should beat. And I think that's harder. That expectation of beating teams you should beat is almost harder. And we've seen that as West Ham fans, where we've played against teams that we shouldn't necessarily get points from, and we've gotten points. And then we've played against teams we should get points against, and we've got nothing. So I genuinely think fixtures are so hard to predict on who is going to go down from them. But you're right, it could go to the final day and my hair will be teared out, and I'm not mentally prepared for that.
Nor am I, trust me. Okay, so we are, for the benefit of this, and as we film, we're going to assume that Wolves and Burnley have already gone. Sorry, Wolves and Burnley fans. I think I know the answer to this, but are we both predicting that Spurs go down, or...?
Yeah.
I think so. Brilliant. Okay, you're never coming back on the show ever again.
Just being honest. Just being honest.
But is that genuinely because of the situation with, roundabout of managers? De Zerbi's come in. He's got a little bit of time. He's had a little bit of time for the Sunderland game. Everyone's been in international duty. If Spurs, let's say in an ideal world for me, Spurs have that massive manager bounce. I'll go with you first, Ellie. And Spurs stay up. Does that mean you go down, or does that mean West Ham or Leeds go down?
I think West Ham would go down if Spurs stay up, but I really feel like we're just lying to ourselves if we're saying that, because I think it's Spurs going down. I don't think, no offence, you have the bottle.
That's fine.
Yeah. I don't think it's the lack of heart. And like you rightfully said, Grace, you've been in it before, we've been in it before. We know to show that heart. Every game matters. It won't be pretty, but we'll do it. Yeah. But Spurs are just on a downward spiral, and the mentality of the players is not right. It's not there. And ultimately, it doesn't matter who you are, what sort of skill and ability you have. If you're not bringing it to the pitch, if you haven't got that, of course they want to stay up, but I think you said it best. They know they can just jump ship. Yeah. They're angry at the club in many ways because of this roundabout. I think the players quite liked Ange, and to be fair, he did win them a European trophy. I just think Spurs are all over the shop. The expectations massively outweigh the reality that are at Spurs. Who would want to be at Spurs these days? There's just no reason to be. You're expected to achieve this and you're given this. It's not looking good for Spurs. I mean, just look at that. That is poor. Look at that form. 1 point in 5. It's just looking worse and worse for you. Not to ruin
No,
your
I was going to say, I'm having a good... Thanks, Ellie. I really appreciate your time. Grace, okay, so we're assuming then that Spurs have had new manager bounce. They're okay. Are you saying West Ham, Forest or Leeds?
I think bringing Leeds into the conversation is definitely important because they're far from safe. I mean, look at them, 33 points. If we get 3 points on Friday, we're right behind them. I mean, you're right behind them anyway. Leeds, from a finishing point of view, You know, they've relied on Dominic Calvert-Lewin far too much, and he's had a bit of a dry patch. And I know he scored at the weekend in a penalty, but they are far too reliant on him. If they can't bury the chances, we're at the point of the season where draws are good, but you need 3 points. And I think they've had far too many draws this season. And yeah, I think they're going to be, if they're not careful, they're going to be dragged into it. All their focus has gone onto the FA Cup now. And that's fair enough because it's a day out of Wembley. You totally understand that. But they need to be careful that they don't let their form drop in the Premier League thinking about this day out at Wembley, because they could so easily be sucked into this.
Hi, I'm Ellie Mollison.
And I'm Grace Wylde.
And you're watching Liberty Rock Sport.
And if you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to subscribe.